The Japanese seaplane carrier Wakamiya conducted the world's first naval-launched air raids in 1914. The 1903 advent of heavier-than-air fixed-wing airplane with the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, was closely followed on the 14th of November 1910 by Eugene Burton Ely's first experimental takeoff of a Curtiss pusher airplane from the deck of a United States Navy ship, the cruiser USS Birmingham, anchored off Norfolk Navy Base in Virginia. 2 months later, on the 18th of January 1911, Ely landed his Curtiss pusher airplane on a platform on the armored cruiser USS Pennsylvania anchored in San Francisco Bay. On the 9th of May 1912, the first airplane takeoff from a ship underway was made from the deck of the Royal Navy's pre-dreadnought battleship HMS Hibernia. 2930. Seaplane tender support ships came next, with the French Foudre of 1911. Early in World War I, the Imperial Japanese Navy ship Wakamiya conducted the world's first successful ship-launched air raid. 3132. On the 6th of September 1914, a Farman aircraft launched by Wakamiya attacked the Austro-Hungarian cruiser SMS Kaiserin Elizabeth and the Imperial German gunboat Jaguar in Kiaocho Bay off Tsingtao. Neither was hit. 3334. The first attack using an air-launched torpedo occurred on the 2nd of August, when a torpedo was fired by Flight Commander Charles H.K. Edmonds from a short Type 184 seaplane, launched from the seaplane carrier HMS Ben Micree. 3536. The first carrier-launched airstrike was the Tondern raid in July 1918. 7 SOP with Camels launched from the converted battlecruiser HMS Furious damaged the German airbase at Tondern, Germany, modern-day Tonder, Denmark, and destroyed 2 Zeppelin airships. 37. The development of flat-top vessels produced the first large fleet ships. In 1918, HMS Argus became the world's first carrier capable of launching and recovering naval aircraft. 38. As a result of the Washington Naval Treaty of 1922, which limited the construction of new heavy surface combat ships, most early aircraft carriers were conversions of ships that were laid down, or had served, as different ship types: cargo ships, cruisers, battle cruisers, or battleships. These conversions gave rise to the U.S. Lexington-class aircraft carriers, 1927, Japanese Akagi and Kaga, and British Courageous class. Specialist carrier evolution was well underway, with several navies ordering and building warships that were purposefully designed to function as aircraft carriers by the mid-1920s. This resulted in the commissioning of ships such as the Japanese Hosho, 1922-39. HMS Hermes, 1924. Although laid down in 1918 before Hosho, and Bayern, 1927. During World War II, these ships would become known as fleet carriers. Citation needed. The aircraft carrier dramatically changed naval warfare in World War II, because air power was becoming a significant factor in warfare. The advent of aircraft as focal weapons was driven by the superior range, flexibility, and effectiveness of carrier-launched aircraft. They had greater range and precision than naval guns, making them highly effective. The versatility of the carrier was demonstrated in November 1940, when HMS Illustrious launched a long-range strike on the Italian fleet at their base in Taranto, signaling the beginning of the effective and highly mobile aircraft strikes. This operation in the shallow water harbor incapacitated 3 of the 6 anchored battleships at a cost of 2 torpedo bombers. World War II in the Pacific Ocean involved clashes between aircraft carrier fleets. The Japanese surprise attack on the American Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor Naval and Air Bases on Sunday, the 7th of December 1941, was a clear illustration of the power projection capability afforded by a large force of modern carriers. Concentrating 6 carriers in a single unit turned naval history about, as no other nation had fielded anything comparable. Further versatility was demonstrated during the Doolittle Raid, on the 18th of April 1942, when U.S. Navy carrier USS Hornet sailed to within 650 nautical miles, 1,200 kilometers, of Japan and launched 16 B-25 bombers from her deck in a retaliatory strike on the mainland, including the capital, Tokyo. However, the vulnerability of carriers compared to traditional battleships when forced into a gun-range encounter was quickly illustrated by the sinking of HMS Glorious by German battleships during the Norwegian campaign in 1940. Naval aviation forced nations to create a number of carriers, in efforts to provide air superiority cover for every major fleet in order to ward off enemy aircraft. This extensive usage led to the development and construction of light carriers. Escort aircraft carriers, such as USS Bogue, were sometimes purpose-built, but most were converted from merchant ships as a stopgap measure to provide anti-submarine air support for convoys and amphibious invasions. Following this concept, light aircraft carriers built by the U.S., such as USS Independence, represented a larger, more militarized version of the escort carrier. Although with similar complement to escort carriers, they had the advantage of speed from their converted cruiser hulls. The UK 1942 design light fleet carrier was designed for building quickly by civilian shipyards and with an expected service life of about 3 years. 40. They served the Royal Navy during the war, and the hull design was chosen for nearly all aircraft carrier-equipped navies after the war, until the 1980s. Emergencies also spurred the creation or conversion of highly unconventional aircraft carriers. CAM ships were cargo-carrying merchant ships that could launch, but not retrieve, a single fighter aircraft from a catapult to defend the convoy from long-range land-based German aircraft.